you're on.
All right, I'd like to call to order the regularly scheduled Brookfield Board of Finance meeting for Wednesday, June 11th. Let's open with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Missing tonight is Naheed, so we will continue on. I don't see, we have public comment.
Was I supposed to sign in?
It's
No.
okay.
Oh, okay.
Oh, what did I do?
No. She did, no,
No.
there's a sign up sheet, but.
Public comment. You
We
just,
don't have a
we don't
long
have
list.
anything other than you stand there and state your name.
Oh, okay.
Irene, so go ahead.
Hello, Irene Korea. So earlier.
You gotta state your
Yeah,
address too.
Oh, I'm sorry, 45 West Wisconsin Road.
Thank you.
I think it was last week. Can't remember now. I believe I copied you on an email about sending in for a grant request through T-Mobile for the. I'm sorry, I'm out of breath from.
Take your time.
She's in the high school where I was.
Take your time.
Yeah, I was at
Literally
the
take your time and catch your breath.
And putting in a grant request through T-Mobile for the main VHS scoreboard. The athletic director had put in a budget of $52,000. I'm trying to get the details whether that includes, delivery and installation and electrical, or is that just the scoreboard itself? It's the end of the school year, things are a little hectic, so I'm hoping once, hopefully graduation and a little lull, I can get some more of that information. Being with I'm president of the Booster Club, we do have methods of raising money if it goes over, that we can make
All
up
the
that
questions I
difference.
sent you.
Yes. And we are holding a fundraiser in October, where we can also advertise that if we do need to make up a difference, part of that fundraiser could be like, hey, we need to make up some money for the scoreboard, especially if we receive that grant. Again, we can say this is the delta we need to make up. And it's something we need. It's about 16 years old. It's kind of like your old car. You're waiting, it's still running, but you don't know when it's gonna fail. So it's been used well past its useful life.
Can I ask a question? Do you mind if I ask a question? I mean, there was some talk a couple years ago about getting a scoreboard. They'd give it to us for free, but it would come with advertisements.
Yeah,
This is
so
not
I think
that,
that one's like $100,000 scoreboard.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's
There
ever
was
been
some
to
concern.
Newtown.
Who's gonna advertise,
Yeah.
but this would just be a scoreboard?
This would be like a replacement of
Like
what we
have
have there.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's all I want.
Yeah.
It's functional, it works, it's probably good for another 10, at least 10
Go
years.
ahead.
They never make stuff.
Steve
like this.
Bozeman, I don't know if you saw his response this morning. He did write back about, he's talked to Casey about a digital scoreboard, so we got an email like 11:20 this morning. So I think
Oh, okay.
that is a conversation that I'll set with Casey to see where that's at.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I know they were talking about that, he hadn't heard back, but then when I saw that T-Mobile, I
Yeah,
mentioned to
no.
him, I said, we should just pursue this, because if we
Yeah.
can get this and just replace
It's
originally what's there,
I'm open, Brian
We
is
need
the
to work
one
in-
that
Yeah, you're fine.
has to go through it, but yeah, we've worked out with the, what else did we helped out with the field, the weights.
Yeah.
We had
Yeah.
some money, so I
Yeah,
didn't
I
get
think
these
it's-
emails, I have to apologize, my email's down.
We're kind of
I know.
cart before the horse. It has to go to
Yeah.
the Board of Selectmen to apply for the grant, to approval. I don't see a problem with approving the application of the grant.
I just know it's like, it is a time
It's a
crunch. 'cause-
quarterly thing, right? But you-
Yeah, and it was to do it like June 30th. And I just happened to, I was searching all different kinds of grants. And
Okay.
then when I came up on this one, I was like, oh, it's June 30th, so that's why I was,
But the
I'm a little
booster-
behind on emails. Have you been able to respond to my questions?
I did, yes.
Okay.
She did.
Given I get those answers, I have no problem. I'll call a special Board of Selectmen meeting.
You don't
We'll
need
approve
us,
it.
right?
But do you need that if it's the booster, like you're a separate nonprofit?
Yes, we are.
So if
Oh,
they're
yeah.
applying for
Yeah.
it,
Yeah, but they're putting it on town property.
but to apply for the grant, you probably need an approval to put it on town property, but.
Because when I was, one thing that's had is letters of
Actually, I think you're
support,
right.
so that's what I was
I
asking for.
don't think-
Like,
Since you're not officially part of the town or town government,
yeah,
you can apply for the grant as a nonprofit.
okay, yeah. I think
Without-
that's-
But
Board
she
of
needs
Selectmen or Board of-
wants letters of support to support the application.
Yeah,
So,
we
I
would
mean-
support the application, I'm
You
sure.
could We could write something up.
And
just say
then
it's
there's other
Yeah.
details I wouldn't know, like say we got the grant, then how do
It was in the
we,
capital.
because I know we don't have the insurance to hire like the contractor to
No,
do
yeah,
that and all
but
that
once you
kind of
get to
stuff.
that point, you could come to the town and we would do that for you.
Okay,
We will do that for you. That's not a problem. If you can get the grant, then we can go back. But you can apply for the grant as a
And you
not-for-profit,
want letters of support, I need to write one
Yeah,
from
we'll write one
us.
for the
Yeah.
Board of Finance.
and I'll get the Board of Selectmen to write one too.
Yeah.
I'll write one up, send it to the two Board of Selectmen, say, do you agree?
Yeah,
I think I can do that without forming a
yeah.
quorum of the Board of Selectmen. If I have to, I'll call a meeting and say, hey, Okay.
Okay.
You just write it, you run with it. All right.
I really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
No, thank you
It's-
for-
Thank you.
It's a win for the town and for the
Yeah.
kids, so
Thank
we
you.
get it, so fingers crossed.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, if you wanna write it, write it.
that means you
don't
have to sit here
talk
for the
us,
rest
just
of the
write it
evening.
and send it
Yeah.
off. All right.
I'll sit for a little bit.
No, no,
It's free.
I'm just kidding.
All right,
Thank you very
communication.
much.
Yep.
Hi.
Communication and correspondence.
All right, we received emails from Irene Correa on June 4th, and then Andy Correa on May 12th, 18th, and 21st.
Okay, approval of meeting minutes.
I move that we approve the regular meeting minutes from May 14th and the special meeting minutes from May 28th.
All right, I'll second that. How's that? Any discussion? All in favor?
I,
Aye. Floor is yours, Steve.
Yeah, okay, I just want to go over a few things. Thank you, guys. Sorry I wasn't able to make your last meeting, but yesterday was a red letter day for me. I drove a car for the first time in 10 weeks. And I was able to walk my daughter down the aisle.
That's important.
That was good. Okay, so I think you've heard that we got a grant for the lighting system at
Yes.
the high school. It's really good. It's total $775,000 it cost. The grant was for $545,000. Primarily, the other money was allocated at Kingwood Lake Elementary School for the fields that we're losing at Huckleberry. And as part of that, they're contributing money for the lights. They're also contributing money for Wisconsin to put in batting cages and some improvements there. And they're working closely with Parks and Rec and the BBSA on that. And everybody seems happy at this point in time. This is phase one of the high school field. The second phase would be, and I had a long conversation with Paul Checo today at the NBC, they're gonna be involved in this because a lot of their money that they, and they're good, you know, Paul knows this. We originally thought maybe it was gonna be 3 phases. We put the lights in, then we do the drainage because it gets very, very wet, and then we consider whether we wanna put in a turf field or leave it grass. If you decide to put in a turf field, the drainage is set up much, much differently than for a grass field. So that would be one project, to do the drainage and the turf field. So it would be a 2-phase project. This state grant loves phase projects. So having gotten the first grant, we have a much better chance of getting a second grant to put in a turf field. And it would be both the baseball field and the softball field. We're doing both, right, the lighting, so it should be good. I'm moving forward on that. Hey, John. The portables are down at Wisconsin, so we're doing some improvement and change there, I just described, that's good. The auditors were in this week. Marcia will give you a little more detail. They've already left us, right? Everything is good. Marcia will give you more detail. We're going to start a banner program that Parks and Rec is going to coordinate with a gentleman named Lee Teichholz. And it's for Hometown Heroes, where anybody who lives in Brookfield can nominate a service member, an aunt, an uncle, father, grandfather, and then we go through a process of vetting them, because I guess there are a few people who claim they're vets and aren't actually vets. So we have a vetting process, a whole process. The town would make a profit on that, and today at the Board of Selectmen meeting, we decided what we'll do is, once we get that money in, we'll make a determination on how to spend it, right? I think it should go to veterans organizations, right? One of them is the VFW. They now have taken over from the police officer who retired and then passed away, Gary. He put up Wallmiller, right? Greg, I'm sorry, Greg, I get it wrong, Greg Wallmiller. He did that all by himself for like 10 years, right? He raised money, you know, guys just donating, we used to donate to him. The VFW has kindly taken that over. They spend about $3,000 a year just on flags. So I think that would be a good cause to support. There are other supports, other groups, veterans groups that if they apply, we're gonna do like we do for the grants, that people apply to the town for the grant. We're gonna create an application process, send in a grant, what do you want the money for, and then the Board of Selectmen will make a determination. I think that's a win.
So the banners are gonna go down.
Well, right now, they'll be in downtown and the town center. Our thinking is not every single light pole. Maybe every other light pole, right? And they only go up for a certain amount of time, usually between Memorial Day and Veterans Day, right? And we think we're gonna get a lot of people, so first come, first served, and we'll move from there.
Where are you gonna put controls in all that?
I'm sorry?
Controls. I get the veterans are great. Breast cancer awareness. Are
Yeah,
you gonna
yeah.
make our downtown advertising? I mean, what about Amco transmissions? I mean,
Well,
I
these are
mean,
veterans. These are
I get they're veterans, but you're saying going out veterans is different than like breast cancer survivors or something else. Are
No one's
you
come
going to
to us with
open
that?
this up to other?
I don't think so. I think Hometown Heroes is a very good thing to do. I would personally be against, having, as you said, advertising.
I'm just saying. If you do for
Yeah.
one, how do you say no to others? Where's the no factor of we're only doing this for veterans? What about other survivors, other incidences? Are you going to open up this downtown now to?
I hadn't even considered it, but we would have to address that when it happens. I don't think we want to open it up to
So
300
how do you
different groups.
address it?
We only have so many,
I
Light
get it. How
posts,
do you address it?
right?
And then what it costs to the town. This one's a money. How do you address this whole process?
well, nobody has a program like the Hometown Heroes. It's already set up. People nominate people and also pay for the banners.
What
Right,
about
you
top
have-
10 students? If the parents want to do top 10 students and honor their students?
Actually, New Milford does that right now. I don't know if you've been up there or
That's what I'm saying,
downtown.
but where is the
We
policy
have to decide.
behind all of this?
has
Because
not been
once
decided.
you open the door for one, are you only saying that's the only organization? And then are the other organizations, the costs associated with the park, does Park and Recs have enough people to manage this? I mean, there's a cost to the town to take the flags up, put the flags down.
Yeah, well, not really, because we put up the banners every year, and Parks and Rec would put up just 2 different banners at the same time. So the cost to do that is nominal. We had not entertained I had not thought of other groups, and that's a good point, that's a good question. We'd have to address that. You're right, I don't know that we want 40 different groups coming to us, right? And the key here is, even if you had, let's say, breast cancer awareness, somebody has to say, who are we gonna put up, a survivor, somebody who passed away? How do you vet that, right?
Maybe you could.
Right, there's a lot of stuff in there. The Hometown Banners program is it's easy, because they use a DD 214 form, where you can confirm somebody's service and that they were honorably discharged. I don't know how we would do otherwise, right? And we'll have to address it
I'm
when we
not
get to it.
saying, I'm just saying that there is going to be a cost, because Park and Rec is going to have to go out there and manage these things. There's going to be a cost.
They
And
do it
Veterans
now.
is a great, I don't want to think it is, but there's going to be other organizations that have just as good a cause
Mm.
that we're going to say no.
But you could put
We
somebody,
might-
you could put somebody in Parks and Rec in charge of the banner, and they work.
They put the
Because
banners up
if
now.
if you get more veterans than light poles, are you gonna have like a switch them out every month?
We would do first come, first served, right?
Right.
So say
but-
you're going to do 12 light posts and you get 100 applications. Are you going to change out that 100 during
No.
Vet Memorial? So
No,
only
no,
12
no,
people are
no.
going to be honored
It would
from
be-
Memorial Day to November every year. So
No,
you're going to
no,
have
no.
10 years of people.
Memorial Day to Veterans Day.
To Veterans Day, okay.
Right.
So
No, I don't think we would be swapping them out, right?
Well, I think it would be
Otherwise,
kind
we'd
of-
have to do it for a longer period.
Or you could just do it, if there were that many veterans and there were 12 light poles, you could do 12 veterans every month from Memorial Day to,
You could, if you
Veterans
could get
Day.
that many.
yeah, I'm just saying, because there are a lot of veterans in town that might, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that might
We
want
have
to be recognized.
60-something light poles.
Oh.
Yeah.
I
It's
don't
way
know
more
where
than
we
you
had
think.
that. Where are they all?
And right now, we're thinking every other light pole,
Okay.
so that would be 30. The application fee is gonna be $150. right? So it's not insignificant,
Okay.
right? Hey, and we're starting.
Okay.
It'll probably evolve and change as we move forward. These are all good questions, and we're still going through that process.
It may not be a bad idea to have somebody on the town side manager though.
Yeah.
Like, that you could have one contact to
To
go
me,
to.
before taking on any of this, I think a policy should be in place before
Well,
you take on
that's what I
any new
meant
thing.
by-
There should be a policy defining what we're gonna do.
We'll take that up.
And deal with and make sure we understand the costs.
Yeah, we'll take that up as a board. We'll take that up. We will do that. Moving forward, farmer's market has starting. And let's hope that the rains stay away. Concerts started last Friday. They got rained out. There's a concert this Friday. There's a forecast for rain.
Contact next Friday.
Yeah. Yeah, last year we got, I think, 8 out of 12 got rained out, right? Well, we're subject to the weather. Graduation is this Saturday?
Yeah.
Oh, we're having a streaming problem.
Yeah. Graduation is this Saturday. If anybody wants to go. We have started, all of our union contracts are coming up in the next year. The first is Public Works. Their contract expires June 30th. We are in the midst of negotiation with them. And at a future meeting, I will give you an update on where we are. We don't expect we'll have that finished, the negotiations finished by June 30th. But when we do settle, then we just go retroactively. If there's a pay increase, we retroactively do that. That's working pretty well. We have, in the past, we've hired Pro Property Management to manage the 4 properties in the town. Silvermine, Gursky, Nature Center, 8 Nabby Road. 8 Nabby Road's lease is up, and a gentleman has been living in there for about 13 years. He's a pretty good tenant. Danbury Housing Authority pays part of his rent. So property management, we don't think that the rent is at market, given the condition of the unit of the house. So property management will go in, they will get comps, they will come back to us, and what we decided today is we're gonna offer the current resident a month-to-month lease at the same rate that he's been paying in the past, and then we'll go back to him and say, okay, here's a new rent. We have to go to the Danbury Housing Authority too, to tell you what we think the rent should be. And on these properties, I've been talking to the Conservation Commission. They have been out to look at the properties. Gursky and the Nature Center buildings are empty right now. They are both in need of significant care. No real money has been sent inside those buildings for a long time. So Conservation Commission, using the funds that they already have, is currently, I'm told, in favor of rehabbing the buildings before we rent them. We get significantly more rent if we did. Also, the heating systems are 30 and 40 years old. With our previous tenants, there were numerous problems throughout the year. Things just breaking down because they're old. We want to fix them up, so we're not getting dozens of calls. The Nature Center property, we were kind of fortunate that we had a town employee renting that property, and he would just fix things. I remember 3 years ago, he called me up Christmas Day, said, listen, pipe broke, I can get this part, it's $50. I said, do it. If we've got to call in a plumber, right, it'll be $500. So he was great, but we don't have that now, so the plan is to look at these buildings, try to fix them up, and then put them on the market. 43 Silvermine has been rented for about 20
On the market for rent.
Market for rent, right, yeah. Silvermine is now rented, $2,800 a month, right, for that house, which is great. We'll do a year-by-year lease. We've got a good pro property management, found a good tenant with good credit, and we hope to do the same thing with the other properties. And they will take over the day-to-day management of these properties, which will be a huge help for us because it's been managed by land use, which is not really their forte, right? So I think it's going to be a win for everybody. And that's it for me.
Well, the bed's not here, but Marcia, you'll cover that, right?
Yes.
Okay, it's on you now.
All right. It's a pretty boring presentation today.
That's good, right?
Yeah, that is good. This one is so boring, I had to highlight the number that's different from last month. Not much has changed in interest. We still have high rates that I'm sure it's gonna make us better on next year's revenue budget, because we had projected it would have been down by now. But the only number that changed on this is Union Savings Bank went from 5.13 to 4.513 to 4.430 as far as the interest rates go. Still pretty good, matching the stiff rates. Newtown rate is the same as it was last month. The expenditures, the contingency, after the transfers you made last month are 432. The Board of Ed asked for 331,542. There's a transfer requested tonight that the Board of Selectmen approved. For that covers the budget strategy. Everything else they're covering on their own, and they're feeling comfortable that they can do that, which includes the electricity, which we thought we were gonna have to give them $150,000. And that includes the McKinney-Vento money, which was also about $150,000, so that's great. The purchase orders, we closed them as of June 15th, so they can try and get things in, so we could, if we need to strategize on certain things, we have some time to see the numbers before the drop dead date of June 30th. And we've asked them to close the purchase orders that are not needed, so we do have a better idea of where our year end would close after Friday. There's no transfers requested for capital. That at the end of the year, we meet with every department to find out where they stand on their each line item that they have, and what we can close, where they think. We do it quarterly, but the next quarter is year end. And as Steve said, the steep grant, the high school field lights were approved. Other funds that I just kept this slide in there because the police outside services, $328,000 is in there that's available, and they'll be asking for motorcycle money tonight. So that's what you have to take
We
it
have a
out.
letter in our packet, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Does the 328 already have the
No.
67,000 out of it? The vehicle that for next year? The next
No,
motorcycle?
no, it's only the things that have been approved by their commission. Audit update, Steve said I would give more information. I don't have much more. They're done, that we gave them everything they asked for up front on their shared file drive. So they were here for 3 days. They met with Board of Ed, with us, with WPCA. We don't know of any issues that we've asked. They don't have any issues. They've given us their engagement letter. We compared it to last year. There's been 2 changes. One that says if there's fraud, that we would be responsible for putting in controls so that there's not fraud anymore. It's relating to state and federal grants, but that's always been the rule. It's just now documented in the engagement letter as part of what the state and federal requirements are. And the fee has changed from last year to the fee that we agreed on.
What was the other one? You said fraud, there was 2 points.
The fee and
The fee was
fraud,
Steve
okay.
asked the same question. What was the other one? I didn't
I
highlight
said the same thing. You only highlighted one thing.
So those are the only 2 differences.
But the fee is what we talked about during
The
the
fee
budget.
matches what they quoted us in February. That's the audit update. The budget for next year, the update on June 4th, the state finished their budget that we're getting, more money than last year. We knew we were gonna get more money from last year in that education cost sharing. That's a Board of Ed number. Then we will also get small adjustments between what the governor proposed, which is what we based our budget on, and the final budget. The biggest part is town aid road money. And I believe, if I heard correctly from the speeches and write-ups, it's because they bonded for money to be able to give the towns more. I'm not sure that's the wisest decision
We don't.
state-wise,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
we should be getting $103,000 more. We have to spend it on the roads. We have plenty of stuff to spend it on between highway salaries and stuff that's already in the budget. And then I took out the one-time revenue, which I see didn't carry across properly. That is FEMA money, that all of it has been obligated, and we're just waiting for the final payments. The payments are done through the state of Connecticut, so I think, who really knows, but I think we're done with whatever FEMA has to do, and it's all in the state's hands now. So, with all these changes that are potentially out there in FEMA, they've told us that it won't affect us even before it was all obligated, except if you have nobody there to approve our stuff, but it's all approved.
On the roads, we can maybe discuss this next time, but there's a lot of paving requests that we've pushed out in this budget. So if there's a way to use this and be able to move in some of those paving requests, that would be really helpful.
So we can't use town aid road money for that, because some are at the school and some are at the fire department, but it's extra revenue, so we can offset more salaries and stuff in the general fund, but then we could use it on something else, like transferring to a road paving project.
Why
That
couldn't we
money
just move it
towards-
into paving and then move the money out of paving and into the other projects? One move.
Correct.
Yeah,
We just take this 103, we move it into the 1.5 million.
right.
So 1.5 million is
Frees up
1.6 million, we take the 103 back out and we move it to the parking lots,
Yeah.
Yeah, we can,
right? We-
not sure in one, but we can do
Yeah,
it.
yeah, you should look into that, but if we're getting money for more roads, paving is kind of like roads, there was a lot of need that we just couldn't afford this year, that would be nice to
The
get.
middle school's pretty bad.
Well, you would have to prioritize it, just like you would anything else, because we could also use this extra money for a scoreboard. There wasn't a scoreboard in the budget. She had thought there was 50,000 or something. They never asked for a scoreboard in the budget.
Well, there was one, wasn't there in the
Yeah, there was.
capital?
There was.
It was an ask, it just got dropped out.
Right. Yeah, I guess my point is, if
Maybe
we're
not.
giving more money for roads,
Yeah.
using it to get a scoreboard doesn't
Yeah.
sound like we're using the money as, it was kind of intended.
But
Paving sounds
makes
pretty
sense.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, paving's paving.
Yep.
in my
roads,
opinion.
yeah.
If we have to move it
Right,
around.
it might
then
be,
that's-
Either one, but we can do that.
Yeah.
That's it. Any questions on finances?
Yeah, what's our year-end scorecard? Let's go back to
Um,
year-end scorecard.
That we're gonna be over budget, hold on. Show that again. The revenue is going to be over budget by approximately 1.1 million.
It's a surplus.
a
over
surplus.
budget, Yes.
Yes, sir.
A surplus.
Yeah.
Some of which we've used for the grants, for the capital, which I think was like 800,000. Let me pull up that budget. Sorry. Ready with this.
Oh, yeah.
So we have 1.1, using 420. So we have 600,000 that is coming from revenue after we move that. Expenditures we'll know after the final purchase orders, but you know, with all the different lines that we have, a little bit here and there adds up. So let's say it's 100 or 200,000.
So we're to the plus 700,000, 800,000,
Yeah,
in that range.
in that range.
Which then we do the 50-50 rule
Yeah.
and,
Yeah,
so we have a little bit of wiggle room still.
Yeah.
yeah, we should be maintaining our fund balance percentage.
Yep, I mean, if we have to put more in the fund balance, we can even do that, yes. But we do have that room to move.
Correct. Yeah, so we'll have more than 100 because we'll have 100 in just contingency alone.
Yeah.
So we'll probably have 200,000 to 300,000 between us and the Board of Ed of unspent money.
And that, we got the King's Kingdom already taken out, right?
That's correct. King's Kingdom.
Kids Kingdom, sorry, Kids Kingdom.
Yes. So,
And there's nothing else we have that was a priority that we sort of shut it down? I know,
Nothing that's immediate. Nothing that like,
the air conditioners, the second phase, what did we have, any?
there's, if we have some money, we want a list of what we might want to consider, I can put that together. No question.
but we do have 250,000 that we didn't use in electricity. That it's just odd, the difference between what we're talking in July about the budget, where there's not any extra room anyplace, what are we gonna do to find $1,000? And in June, that it frees up. That, but we had 250,000 we put aside for electricity. There were some grants that we were gonna apply for. We thought maybe some might need to be the matching. So we do have some flexibility.
So what is the process though for, I mean, I know it's excess revenue that we weren't anticipating, but I need to be refreshed on what the process is. Like, we can't just go and say, let's spend $100,000 on an air conditioning, even, because we didn't have that in the budget that went through vote. So is that,
That's a really good question. No, I totally
because, I mean,
get
we
what
want to
you're
use
saying.
pockets of money when we have them, but what is that for, because $100,000 is more than $30,000 on Kids Kingdom. Like, how do we go through that process?
So what we've done in the past is that we've taken and done a budget transfer, and we could take it from, let's say it's 100, it's from contingency. If it was 150, we could do contingency and this or that, till they add up to 100, transfers into capital non-recurring. That's how we've done it in the past.
But does it go to a town vote to spend?
That's where I was, yeah.
It doesn't
Does the
because
board
It
of
has to be,
selectmen approve it or
so what is it,
anything?
what percentage of the?
additional appropriations
Yeah.
have to go to a town meeting, 40,000 for one department or 4%, I think it is.
Yeah.
That, but there's nothing like that on transfers.
All I was saying was that if we had something that was a summer type of thing that we sort of put off, that we may have money for
Yeah.
now,
Yeah,
instead of kicking it to next year, is there anything that would be something that, like, we could do in the summer or have for ready for, you know, I don't know.
What about like that AC one on that? Wasn't there the first phase two of the AC?
That's a good idea.
Because it's hot.
Brian, is there anything in the capital that
Yeah,
you guys would like to
I
do?
don't want to wing it.
No,
So-
right.
No, I'm just saying, you know, that we got to this point, we got a lot of good news, we didn't get bad news, how's that? We got what we expected news,
Yep.
we always are very cautious about making sure we cover the bad news. We don't have the bad news, we have a 50-50 policy in place where 50% of this is gonna go to the general fund. We're not restricted, we could put more in the general fund. But if we had projects that made sense, right now, why would we burden next year's capital? You know, not next year, the next budget capital season. Why would we put pressure on it if we can relieve some pressure? We sort of managed through the debt bubble, right? We were at the point where we've gotten through the backside. We know we're gonna get some relief in a couple of years of things. So if we had things that we can utilize some of this money now that makes sense, not just suspend it, but makes sense spending.
Why don't I bring in to the next meeting a list of things that kind of fit that criteria, things that are more on the urgent side, kind of this size money, things that potentially would be better if you got them done in the summer, things like that. I can just bring in not a proposal, but just a list of things to look at. We
It's
can
not
decide.
time constrained, right? We can.
We've done this before, the final transfers that we do in September, and we've talked about it before that. In August is when we normally make the decision, so that it could be in the statements that we prepare to the.
So we could do it in our next meeting.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's too late to do the dots over at the town park. I mean, they're kind of used already.
Yeah, that I think would be a tough
Well, I
one.
thought they got money out of the parks and.
They got money for
They
the
got-
boat docks.
Yeah, we got part of the, never come out where the boats come in and out.
Yeah.
We didn't do the swim,
Oh,
so we could order the swim.
I think
I
we
don't
let
know when
Brian-
we would
let
get
Brian
it.
come back with us.
We
He's the
can
one
get
with his
one of
finger
those
on
stuff
it.
you remember, and then, well, let's see if I can.
I think the best way would be you to come up with a list of what your
Yeah,
group
but-
has looked and prioritized.
And I'm not gonna come up
Then
with
we
like a
can-
proposal, I'm just going, here's kind of 10 things that fit the
Yes.
criteria that
And the
we can talk
priorities
about.
that we had on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go, and the priorities, yeah, that you had on them. So
And we
know
might
if they
not
were
do it.
important or not.
I'm not
Well,
saying we're
yeah,
gonna
right,
do
right.
it, but I think
Just gives us a
it'd be
look.
responsible for us to look at this since we
Yeah.
didn't get bad news. We got expected news.
And
So
to your
good.
point, it's just gonna wind up on the capital for next budget season,
Yeah.
so if it's something that,
And it gives you a little room in next year's budget, capital budget,
yeah.
if something goes a little over, or
Yeah, we-
just gives you a little more breathing room. I think it's a
I
good
agree.
idea.
All right, so we're all in agreement
Yep.
for next
Yeah.
meeting?
Yep.
All right. Audit, we're good on. So let's talk about this. So we're all good with this, we're all in agreement,
Mhm.
right? With the letter, there's only two changes. One was fee we know about, and the other was
Just a
the
technical.
fraud, which we knew about too as well. So we're good there. All right, so then we're on to your committee, Brian, the capital committee.
Yeah, so, I don't remember what we talked about last meeting, but I think everybody knows that a new member was added to the committee, George Lasos. We've started our reviews of the 10-year, right? So it gets submitted in the budget cycle, but we spend all our time on the 1 year. So we had about half of the departments come in and talk through those, and then we have one more meeting in early July when we can all get back together to do that. What I can tell you is, if you look at over 10 years, and even over 5 years, the amount of capital being requested is in line with kind of what the long-term model says we can afford, so that's good. The tricky part, and not surprising, is that we're probably heavy in the 26, 27 budget. So the next year budget, we're kind of heavy by about 3 million, and then we're a little bit lighter in the next 3 years. So it's not that it's just there's planning group out in year 10. It's, in the next couple years after that, it's lighter. So particularly Parks and Rec, we asked them to come back and really put together a prioritization, because they kind of asked for everything in the first year. So we said, why don't you see if we can put together more of a rollout strategy, and if we can get that, I don't know if we'll solve 3 million, but, I think it'll get a lot closer, so we're in pretty good, from an overall spending, it was a pretty reasonable approach.
I really believe, and the way we've formed all of this is, we've been reactive a long time now. We've dealt with a lot of reactions, and it's time to be proactive and fit these in like we're doing right now. And I think the approach is good, Brian. I think that if we can get people proactive, we can get to pretty much what the town needs. Proactively putting it into the right buckets. May have to wait a year, some people may have to do things, but if we can plan this out, and I think, I forget who said it is, we have to plan for long-term sustainability or something, and that's what we're doing. So I think with that, we need to look at, like you're saying, the way we're looking at it,
Right.
and put it in those buckets.
You know,
Marcia,
and I think we've been doing a pretty good job over the last few years. I was talking to a first selectman yesterday in a local town, I won't say who the town. He told me they have $130 million in deferred maintenance on a budget similar to ours. They just haven't been maintaining their buildings. Anything. Wow, that's a huge nut.
We don't have those.
That made me feel very good about what we're doing here in
We're
Brooklyn.
behind on, truck replacement, stuff like that, it's not.
But not like that.
No, it's really.
But now's the time to fit them in, that's what I'm
Now's the time,
saying,
right.
now's the time to figure this out and fit them in.
Yep.
Instead of like emergencies, fit them in.
Bless you.
Marcia, do you have any thoughts while we're,
No, I think that would be great. I'll calculate the fund balance to make sure that it doesn't go down, and by the next meeting, I'll have a better idea of where we stand on encumbrances, although they don't usually close them until July 31st, even if we ask just in case. So August, I'll have an even better idea, but I see what you want to do, and we can.
so simplistically for me, then, if you could give us the final scorecard, like all the, like the surplus revenue, the what we didn't spend in expenditures, we'll know the 50-50, but then, like you're saying, the general fund not going down, number that we need to contribute maybe to make that stay status, and that'll give us a number that we can look at to fit Brian's list.
Yeah.
If we
And
want to.
we could even transfer it over, so the fund balance stays the same, this is the amount we can afford to transfer over, and not assign it to projects yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then we could dump it, okay, so it's still within the general fund umbrella is what you're saying?
It goes from the general fund to the capital non-recurring, and it's just not committed yet in the capital non-recurring fund.
Yeah, I think, like I said, we can find out where the general fund lies, the number that we have total dollars to work with, the general fund to keep it even, and then we can look at projects, and if the projects, none of them, or only a couple of them meet what we want to do, the rest goes into the general fund and we get it up a little bit more.
Yeah, because every year.
Yeah, we're not
the
looking to
budget going
spend
up,
it, but if it makes sense.
If we don't put money in the
Right.
general fund, it's gonna go down as a percentage.
So you in agreement with that, everybody, sort of?
Yeah, just because some of it will say, it makes sense to spend it now because we're in the summer or whatever, so.
Correct.
And other ones we might say, yeah, I think that's good, but we don't have to actually decide to spend right this second because there's not as much of an urgency, so we can do all that if you know the number.
Right, and
Next
then we
meeting.
can, if we could put it in the general fund, even to raise the percentage in the general fund, it isn't gonna hurt us.
Good.
Yeah, we're not up to where we want to be yet.
Right, so,
So we'll just make that an agenda item for
Yeah.
next meeting.
alright. Old business we're on to now. Internal service fund, that I've fallen asleep on, and I apologize, Marcia, I gotta get back on that.
Yeah, then the biggest question is, do we want to do it or not?
Yeah, I think we do. I think we need to discuss it more. I think it makes sense for guidance along the next years. So I do see the importance for us to at least go through it another time and see if we can come in.
Yeah.
This wouldn't have been the budget cycle to do it, so I'm glad that because, when you have an 11% increase, that's not when you put a service fund in place, but maybe talking about it now so we're ready for next year would be good.
Yeah, I agree. I think we gotta revisit that. So
Yeah,
I also,
If you look at towns like New Fairfield, 7.7% increase in their budget. Bethel had a huge increase. Newtown had a 7.
New Milford is having their budget.
New Milford is still
cuts.
having massive problems because they cut so much out of their Board of Ed budget. But
Yeah.
this is my opinion. Our 3.69 is an homage to the work we've done over the past few years, that we can absorb an 11% increase in health. We can absorb increases in electricity and still manage it, still have reasonable tax increases, right? New Fairfield just reeling, but they got $128 million for their schools, and they just did it overnight, right?
we've been planning this for 6 years now, 7 years now. We've been planning how to
Yeah.
manage it.
And it's working.
It's working. All right, on to new business. We have a motion, well, I'm gonna make a motion to amend our agenda to talk about the police outside fund. Do I have a second?
Also,
All right, the police have asked us,
wait, we need to.
You gotta vote.
oh, all in favor? Aye, sorry.
that's why-
Discussion, my bad. They sent us a letter which was approved by the Board of Selectmen and by the Police Commission to take $33,100 out of their outside police fund. As Marcia showed earlier, they have a $300,000 in that account. They let us utilize 60-something thousand of that for a police car this year. Generally, obviously, you can see these requests don't come in that often because they wouldn't have built up $300,000 in that account if this was something that they went to on a whim. So I would make an motion that we approve the appropriation.
Before you make the motion, I have to recuse myself from this vote.
Yeah, I
Only
was just gonna
I
suggest
just
because
would-
you work at BW.
Yeah, just because I work at it, I just,
Yeah.
it's not
No, you
appropriate for
should
me to vote.
recuse yourself. Can I
Sorry,
just
Andy.
add
Go
a
ahead.
little bit of flavor for this?
Well,
Until,
we gotta make the motion and then we gotta discuss it.
Yeah.
I'm happy to
Motion.
speak. So if anybody
You're a little ahead of
has,
the
if anybody has any,
That's
just,
what I was
yeah.
doing.
Learn how to do it. I know.
I would
It just
recuse
says if anybody has
myself.
any questions.
But go ahead
I'm
and
happy to
speak,
do that.
Steve, go ahead.
So in talking to the chief of police, we've had 2 police officers who are certified motorcycle. You have to get certified to be a police motorcycle driver. We now have 4 additional officers who are getting certified. We have 1 BMW now, and the thinking was they're being trained on BMWs. We want them to move from the bike they know to the bike they know. A couple people have said to me, why aren't you getting American Metal Road Kings from Harley? Hey, they're great bikes, totally different, because I've owned a Road King and I've driven BMWs, totally different bikes. They ride differently. The BMWs are much more versatile. They're much more easy to drive. They just are. And they already have one, so the guys know what they're doing. So I think it's a good fit. It's what they should do.
And the first one they've always used.
Yes.
So it wasn't like the first one was a used vehicle.
Yep.
So it wasn't like we picked BMW, that was the used vehicle that fit our budget at the time.
That's correct.
So
Yeah, there
now
was
we're going
they
on-
looked at a Road King, but it was like 20.
And we got this for like 13 or 15, if I
It
remember.
was a
right.
Yes.
$44,000 road
Yeah.
thing. We bought it
They're just
$14,000.
14,000, yeah.
Yeah,
So
it was
that's
a good
what I'm saying.
bit
So
more.
And
if
they
you're,
used it through, they bought it with their outside services fund. It didn't cost the first motorcycle as well.
but both motorcycles are only gonna cost 47,000. So I mean, to combine, so it's still a good deal. So I'm gonna make a motion. How's that, Brian?
I'm waiting for you, man.
I'm gonna make a motion to appropriate the $33,100 from the Police Outside Services Fund for the purpose of purchasing a second motorcycle traffic unit and related equipment, which has been approved already by the Police Commission as well as the Board of Selectmen. Do I have a second? Any more discussion
Yeah, so-
needed?
Now we're doing the discussion phase of the motion.
Would you like to discuss
Yeah,
it?
so, we had the police come in for the 10-year plan a week or 2 ago. The plan was that we would actually buy a new motorcycle and replace the used one because I think it's a 2016, so it's pretty old. But it's old. It is 2016, but it's old. So we had in the 10-year plan 2 new motorcycles and then a 5-year replacement. They also said 2 is how many we need, right? Because if it's never going to buy 2, and because we're training those guys, we want 5 of them. That wasn't the case. There's 2. And they went through the need of how it's used, and it is a useful. You notice they're going on the Still River Greenway, et cetera. There is actually need for using more motorcycle in the town. So there was need. This was in the 10-year plan. So this actually, if they're willing to buy it now, which is great, that will take $33,000 out of next year's plan. That I said was over by $3 million. So we just sell the first whatever 1%.
1%.
So all that said, it fits in with everything that we've been discussing for the capital side, and it's great that they're doing it now. the 320, this will take about 100,000 out of that between the car and the motorcycle.
so we're down to
But it's
220.
still above the kind of 150 we wanted to keep it.
Steve and I talked about that when he
Yeah.
first was first selectman. The 150 is a very good number for them, because there's not a lot that they need that's gonna be more than 150. Their requests are in the 30,000, 17,000, 22,000 range.
So I think we have
The-
more than enough still in that
Yeah.
fund.
The
if we
big
use this.
request that will come up is the design of a new police station, which we have a verbal agreement that they would use the outside services fund.
When is that?
And that could be $80,000, $100,000.
When are we anticipating that? Because it's been talked about for,
I'm sorry. I
when
can't-
are we anticipating getting that request for design?
They will be coming,
Hold on, let's wait a minute.
Okay.
We got a motion, let's go through that,
Yeah,
then we'll
go
move
through
on to
it.
that one. How's that? Because I get confused. It's
Yeah.
not because it's,
Yeah,
all
I
right.
want to make one more point. The only reason that it wasn't in this year's is because, if you remember, we have about $330,000 for a new dispatch system for the police. So
Oh,
the
yeah.
police, year to year, the capital in the upcoming budget is increasing a lot. So we just couldn't afford to put anything more like a motorcycle, and that's why it got pushed out. So, we even kind of vetted the need this year for this motorcycle. Now I'm telling.
All right, any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes, one abstention.
recusal. No, recusal.
Recusal, yeah, one recusal. Now you can please.
Yeah, no, just, I mean, I think the first meetings that I sat in as a board member were about the library and then where do we fit in the police station, and I've yet to see a request for, I know we've talked about it, the design, but what's holding that process up?
Nothing's holding it up. The committee is looking at it now. They're looking at a number, the police ad hoc committee. They're
Yeah.
looking at a number of sites, including here, a couple of sites in the downtown. They're looking at it and making a final recommendation to the town. They're fleshing out exactly what they think they need in the building.
But are they working
Right.
with a company like we did with when we worked for the CLES? We had somebody that came in and looked at the properties and gave us like the 8 or 10 different options of rebuild as new, or are they doing this? Is this ad hoc committee doing that themselves, or are they actually working with an organization?
They are doing that themselves because they have a lot of experience.
Okay.
We have Jay Purcell running it. Remember, we already have 2 complete designs for police station.
Yeah,
One here for the farmer's market and one here
expanding.
going into the Grimes property. I think what they're gonna do is come back to us with a recommendation. Then, here's where, and this is true of the community center too. We have 2 big projects coming up, right? We have limited resources. The police station, in my opinion, should come first because we have some legal requirements we have to meet, right? We have to then go back, they have previously hired architects to help them plan their needs to meet the Police Accountability Act, so they know exactly what they need. They know exactly what they need.
Do we
Like,
know exactly what we need?
Do we, you and I? No, not yet. They will come and tell us.
But I mean, we've heard about this for years now.
Yeah,
It's not really ever been defined to us exactly, the checklists in the box. There's been gray areas, maybe we don't need this, maybe we do. We're all on
Mhm.
board for
Police
supporting the
accountability,
police.
yeah.
Yes, yes.
Don't get me wrong.
True.
But we have not got a definitive checklist that says we need this, we absolutely need this is a nicety. We haven't gotten that checklist.
And-
So my fear is we're sending out these committees and they're gonna come back and say, we got these $60 million building, and we got a $40 million building, and we're gonna
And you're
say,
gonna meet
we have
that.
20 million.
yeah. I have spoken to them, right? Not to the community center because they're a little further down the road. The police, I want your absolute minimum. You're really good to have to make a long-term solution for a police station. And then, boy, this would be great to have. For example, how many of your vehicles should be indoors? Right? At a beginning, the SWAT, the scuba, those vehicles that are sitting outside now or in that big white bubble, right, should probably be indoors because vehicles that are left outdoors just get destroyed. Mice get in them, animals get in them. So it's those sort of things. And they're looking at that. So they will be coming back to us, I think, with exactly what you're talking about. Here are the minimum requirements we have. Here is, if we add this, this, and this, we believe this building would be good for another 30, 40, 50 years, right? And I will emphasize that with them,
And
right?
they'll point out what's state mandated and
I think
Yeah.
that it needs to be
Yeah.
clearly defined, like,
Yeah.
to your point. We know, like, the jail cells have to be like a certain, we need to know all
We-
of that.
We don't have, I mean, we've asked for it a couple times, like exactly what is the need? And it's always been gray. And I'm not saying that they're not please, I'm not hiding anything. I'm just
No,
saying,
no, no.
do we have a full definition of expectations to the statute?
So I will go back to Jay Purcell and the committee and say, hey, give us an indication of where you are, what you're doing, what you consider are the absolute, have to have, the law requires it, right? Because we're gonna have to sell this, God bless you, we're gonna have to sell this to the residents, right? And we need all that information to do that, right? So I'll go back to them and get a more definitive answer to your question. It's a very good question. Is that reasonable? Okay.
And Steve, I've mentioned this before, I think it's important that we're really clear about the potential for the shared range, gun range.
Yeah.
So if the proposal's gonna assume that we're not gonna have our own range, we're gonna use a shared one, that they have the cost for the shared one in the proposal as well, and not have it as a separate kind of thing, right? Because you can start making things sound cheaper because you pull a bunch of stuff out and then have to pay for them separately, or I mean, we can't lose it.
Yeah, with that, I think the proposed firing range in Newtown is a very good idea, and I think most police departments are very much in favor of it, because some ranges have closed. We
If
have
they're
to go to
assuming that we're
Torrington.
gonna use that, then they should
Right,
have the cost.
absolutely. I think we
Right.
would definitely want to be a part of that project. And that figures in because one of the designs, if I remember correctly, of our police station includes a shooting range. But it's only pistol, not long gun, it's not obstacles. The firing range proposal in Newtown would cover, vehicles, everything, every type of activity that the police would do using guns, right, would be in that facility. And it's a permanent facility. Right now, we're going to Torrington, they're good, right, but you have to, but sometimes now, Danbury, every time they get a new warden, the warden decides whether you can use their range or not, right? I think we need a more permanent solution, but that would be part of it, because we don't want to put a range in our new police station if we're gonna get that, right?
And before
'Cause they're not cheap.
I sign off, they might sign off. Before I sign off on any new project, I want to know, what are we doing with the building we're vacating
There you
plan?
go.
Yeah.
100% plan. There's not going to be another center school. We're not going to have 3 center schools.
We need to, this is
If we
something,
vacate the library and we put it over here, we vacate the police department, we put it over here. We have structures that everybody says, oh, we're going to have cost savings. We're still heating them, we're still putting electricity in them, we're still
Yep.
maintaining them.
Yep.
Without that, no projects, in my view, can go forward. Without a, hey, this is, and it's not moving TSO into the police station because it's an open building, because now we got space. We have to have an exact plan, whether it's a tear down, whether it's
Either one,
whatever it
doesn't
is. It can't be, like I say, moving TSO to the library because they want more space.
Yeah.
No, that's not a use of space.
so we have a lot of conflicting needs, right? We have 2 big committees right now. We have a number of buildings that the use would change with any plan that we're thinking. And I talked to Paul Checo about this today, he's the head of the NBC, and a couple of other people, interesting to your point, in the last 2 days. And one suggestion was, you know what we really need to do? We need to hire a planner who looks at every town building and all of these things coming in, does an analysis, okay, if we're not gonna use the old police station, what's the highest and best use for that old building? We don't want empty buildings, right? Center School, we probably could have used it, except the category changed. School is the highest category for safety. Doesn't matter. The minute you change it to recreational use, like Parks and Rec, you have to bring that building up to today's code, even if you're downgrading the level.
But it's still a lesson learned, and shame on us if we fall back into that thing. We're now still paying for center school stuff. It's still, it's
we're not
minimal
paying
now.
much.
Yeah, but it's still, we paid for
Still
2 years on it. We paid 60,000, 100,000, 2 years.
Clearly, taking the oil tank out and then having no heat, having a flood in the basement, has caused that building to deteriorate much more quickly than it normally would have. To put in a new oil tank is about $80,000 to $100,000. The electrical panels that got blown out are $485,000, but we would not want to put them back in the basement, so we'd have to move them upstairs. That's another I don't know, 100,000 to move them upstairs, because you've gotta move all the wiring, and are you gonna do that in a building that you might decide to take down? Where would you put that electrical? There are so many moving parts there, we could easily spend $800,000.
But there's gonna be moving parts on all the buildings.
Yeah.
The library, every building is,
Yeah.
so when we vacate, what are we gonna do?
Yeah. No,
And
that's
it's,
a
like I
fair-
say,
That's
and,
fine.
and
Yeah,
having
fair
someone decide that, well, Steve Dunn's gonna move his office to the library isn't a use of that building that we should be paying the bill for. That's not an acceptable,
No, we should have
answer.
a clear plan, I agree with you, a clear plan for every building, right? To look at every facility we have. If, let's say the police come and say, we wanna put a new building here, we don't wanna use the old building, we should have a use for that building, and a well thought out use for that building, right?
and if not, what are we gonna do with it? Or how do
If
you
not, what are
approve
we
that
gonna
plan
do?
going forward without having a use for the old?
I agree with
Old buildings
All right.
all over town.
Next motion is new business. I'd like to make a motion to approve the interdepartment transfers for the year end 2025 as noted on the budget versus actual expenditures report in the amount of $331,542 to the Board of Education as approved by the Board of Selectmen in their June 2nd meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion now is, this is something we've talked about the whole year. We've talked about this every month. Marcia went over it. They managed the McKinsey money, they managed the electricity money. This is in line, we put 400,000 in the contingency. We still have some left over, so this is in line with the number we anticipated, maybe even lower than the number we anticipated when we put together the budget last year. Any other comments, discussion items? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. All right. And other items become before the board. I'd like to make a motion that we enter into executive session on legal matters. And I'd like to invite both Marcia and John Lucas into the meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion on that? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
And the only thing after this is adjourning, so I was gonna turn this off, and I'll email you what time we end.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you very much.